Hey, what's going on, crypto geniuses? This is Philip, and another episode. This one, I want to talk to you guys about SEGWIT2X. Now, we're about, 8+ days before the fork, and it's going to get pretty dramatic. It might even feel like World War III when it comes to the Bitcoin community and those of you that hold Bitcoin. But kind of wanted to dig in a little bit as to what we're really dealing with, and kind of show you the dynamics and probably shed some light on how this is ultimately going to shake out. So what we could do is look at how much time we have left, and if we do that, let's move on over to our SEGWIT2X countdown timer. Got 8 days, 7 hours, 52 minutes, and 46 seconds, and that takes us to about November 16th, 2017, 10:20 a.m. Eastern. That might fluctuate a little bit because blocks are not mined exactly every 10 minutes, but that's essentially what the network aims to do to throttle the production. That's just built into the code. But basically what you want to do is when you see block height 494784 printed on any blockchain explorer, you could use blockchain.info, for example. And most of you guys know this, but in case you didn't. And basically what you'd be looking for is, in this section here, you'd be looking for that number to print. So when you see 49, well anyway, here you go. 494784, when you see that, and you see that here, then the block has been mined, and that's where the fork starts. Okay, so at that point you could redeploy into your altcoins or whatever else that you wanted to do, but if you were holding to get your allocation at that point, your allocation is now in that block and part of the 2x chain. Okay, so the 2x, SEGWIT2X, very contentious, and it's contentious because there's an argument between whether or not there's going to be big blocks to solve the cost of transacting and the speed of transacting, or do we go with the core development and let them figure out a way to take care of those problems, which I believe that they will. It's just giving them the time to do it, basically. So basically you have a group of companies, CEOs of companies, exchanges, mining conglomerates that came up with this agreement to do SEGWIT2X. But a lot has changed since that, what they call the New York Agreement. And SEGWIT was already implemented using the Bitcoin Improvement Protocol, BIP 148. And Bitcoin Improvement Protocols, or BIPs, have been the way that the current code that's basically run on the majority of the Bitcoin network, Bitcoin nodes, vast majority of them, probably 90% or more, run the Bitcoin core code. And that was done through various Bitcoin Improvement Protocol upgrades over time. So the 2x fork is a little different because it's taking an approach of not coming from the Bitcoin Improvement Protocol process. It's just coming from left field, and it's coming from a small group of mostly CEOs and venture capitalists and big miners. So because of that, it kind of feels like a corporate takeover. Now, you're entitled to however you want to feel, but to me, it seems like if you're looking at what makes up the Bitcoin network or the nodes, then you have to really look at what everyone's running, and it's really the Bitcoin core software. So what's going to happen? Well, there's a couple scenarios. Actually, there's more than a couple. There's several. But one could argue that you may see, as the block height comes and we approach the fork, you may see mining hash power that's signaling for the SEGWIT2X to fall off. Now, what do we mean by that? Well, if we look at, let's see here. Actually, we're going to go CoinDance. Look at CoinDance. Sorry, I thought I had that up, but so this line represents all of those that are they're signaling. Now, signaling and actually mining are two different things. I want you to keep that in mind. The SEGWIT2X intention. Okay, that's they're intending to go ahead and only mine SEGWIT2X blocks. So large majority of the Bitcoin network or nodes wouldn't communicate with that. And so it's been pretty steady up in this 80 percentile, 83 percentile range. But noticeably in the last few days, it's dropped. And the last 24 hours, we actually are showing 75.7% of the blocks being mined or signaling. So we're starting to see some support being pulled, at least the intention that's being signaled. Now again, signaling for SEGWIT2X is basically just raising your hand and saying, yeah, we intend to, but whether or not they actually go through with it, that's another matter entirely. Thing you have to understand too is that there's a lot of money at stake for them trying to move off to a SEGWIT2X chain. So one way to look at that would be just to kind of look at the math and what these guys would be dealing with as far as money lost. So for example, there's 144 blocks that can be mined in a 24-hour period. All right, now that's average, right? The network will fluctuate. Maybe some days you might get 145 or 6 or whatever, but for the most part, you average 144 blocks a day. And then you get 12.5 blocks or 12.5 Bitcoin per block. Okay, so that's 1,800 coins per day, right? Now, if you take 1,800 coins per day and you look at what the actual value is that the market is saying through the futures of this new SEGWIT2X coin, and how we can look in that is looking at the B2X futures. So here we have right now we're at let's just call it 0.12 for 0.12 right now. That's our price, 0.12 in Bitcoin terms. So it's got about 12. When we're done, you're going to see that's going to just equate to percentage of success that this happens. So right now, a 12% chance that this has any chance of taking off. All right, so now if we look at Bitcoin, we had a little run up here. This is early morning, burning the midnight oil for you guys to kind of go over this stuff. But so right now we're at 7,337. Let's just call it 7340. So what you want to do is you're going to take the 7340. So let's say the current price, right, is 7340. We're going to subtract what's 0.12 of 7340. That's going to be 880 roughly. All right, so 880. So basically what we're looking at is 7340 minus 880, and the grand total is 6,460. All right, so basically that's what they're foregoing on every Bitcoin in dollar terms. Now granted, this stuff's going to move around before the fork, but I mean right now they're staring down the barrel of a major economic problem, because if you're losing a potential lost income of $6,460 per Bitcoin, and this could go up if the 2x futures dive, this is going to go up. But now so you're going to take, right, you're going to take this 6,460 times those 1,800 Bitcoin per day that you're making. This is a huge number. This is over 11 minutes. 6,460 times 1,800. This is mental. I mean, it's just, when you look at it in these terms, right, of zero. There we go. There we go. So basically every day what's going to happen is $11,628,000 in lost revenue every single day. Every single day. Now that's aggregate with all the miners. So all these miners that are signaling the support that you guys saw, which is currently going down. But if all those guys, they're truly intent on signaling for this SEGWIT2X that doesn't have network support, doesn't really have the economy. Nobody's running 2x. They're hoping that they do, but they don't. And they're looking at $11.6 million loss in revenue per day. And that's going to go up. If SEGWIT2X starts tanking, the futures start tanking, I'm going to tell you right now, the miners go where the economy is. The economy doesn't follow miners. The miners are going to mine what's going to pay them. And I'm going to tell you right now, that is a steep, steep cost to try to implement their SEGWIT2X, which, let's just face it, is redundant. We already have the SEGWIT. Personally, I think what's going to happen is I think SEGWIT2X just might be a lot of interference, and I think they really want to focus on Bcash personally. So what you might see is SEGWIT2X is just a big nothing burger, and what you might see is Bcash start to turn up. That goes back to probably what happens at the fork. So right now we're kind of in a channel, and this doesn't surprise me. We come up, and this represents kind of like, this is a fork. Basically draws a channel based on the price action. So you pull back, and then another bounce higher might take us up to here to the 7,800 level. I think though this is going to keep grinding, because you will have some money that comes in to buy up some alts, but ultimately you're going to see people further get out of the alts. Now they may wait to the last minute just so they get out, get the block height stamped, and then they get their allocation of 2x, and then they go right back into the altcoin. So you might see a quick spike up before the fork. I do think you see a pullback after the fork, but there's really nothing to worry about though. If you are into Bitcoin, you're holding Bitcoin, whatever, there's just nothing that you need to worry about too much, because ultimately what's going to happen is you're going to get your allocation of Bitcoin. So if you've been saving up Bitcoin, you've been building your allocation, and you've got quite a bit to speak for, then you're gonna be okay, because once the blockchain splits, and most of you guys, a lot of you guys already know this, but in case you're just not clear, you'll get your allocation 2x coins. So if the outside chance, and right now as you can see the market's saying there's about 12% chance, if that actually took off and became the larger economy, wouldn't matter. You just have your 2x coins, just like you have your Bitcoin coins now. And over time, if that were to happen, then they would call SEGWIT2X would be referred to as Bitcoin, the Bitcoin. I don't think that's going to happen for reasons stated. So, we'll put out more videos as we get closer. It seems like every day there's just more drama. We'll keep tabs on who's dropping out and whatnot, but they're really looking at an uphill battle economically if the miners really do switch off and try to get mine that chain. You can expect slow transaction times if that happens. You probably will already expect or see some slow transaction times. I think we will see some hash power switch, but I don't know that that's going to last very long. There's a lot of economic incentive to keep Bitcoin cohesive the way it is. You have the Chicago Mercantile Exchange futures coming online, which is going to pave the way for a lot of funds to come into the crypto space, especially Bitcoin, since it's the mainstay. So, you got to take all that into consideration. I've had some questions. Do you dump the Bitcoin 2x? I mean the SEGWIT2X coin, and really, probably ultimately you do, but there's no reason, and there's nothing there's no harm in holding it just to see how things shake out. I think in all likelihood it's going to take a couple of weeks to kind of sort out and see where the miners go, and probably going to be some network disruptions. Now, if we leading up to that, we see all the miners just bail, or when the fork happens, you don't see much hash power change, and they just keep on mining the legacy chain that we're on now, then we know, and that's basically it, and there really isn't much to deal with, and Bitcoin goes on. So yeah, community, it's a pretty contentious thing, but I think the economy and the current Bitcoin network is really going to dictate what Bitcoin is. And I think you're going to find that the decentralized consensus-based network that Bitcoin is self-healing and takes care of itself. And I think this is going to be a pretty interesting exercise as far as when you see a small contingency group that wants to dictate what Bitcoin is and how the network takes care of that problem. So interesting stuff, and we'll be out with more SegWit videos this week as the fork approaches. But yeah, I thought I'd share with you the economic uphill battle that these miners face if they take on this SegWit chain and start mining that. It's going to be very, very, very expensive. All right, guys. Well, that's it for now. Have an awesome one, and I'll see you on the next crypto video. Take care, guys. Bye.